DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We got Rudo and AJ here today. We're going to get into, I think we've talked about some of the options for 2C, but we're going to dive into how they actually fit on the Colorado Avalanche, what's good, what's not so good for them. But before we do that, the Hockey Hall of Fame class for 2023 was announced. Quite big, actually. Includes Ken Hitchcock, Tom Barrasso, Henrik Lundqvist, Caroline Ouellette, Pierre Turgeon, Mike Vernon, and then the one we care about here in Colorado, Pierre Lacroix, getting into the Hockey Hall of Fame as a builder. About time, it feels like.
Yeah.
Also, there's a weird echo.
For who? For me?
For me, yeah. Well, I'm assuming it's coming through yours, but I don't know where else it would be coming from. I don't know.
I don't either.
Well, let me see if this fixes it.
So you sound fine to me, so it must be.
Chat says there's a better one.
No, totally.
Cool.
Maybe
this
I'm
is fun to
too
do.
loud. I don't know. I think if I don't talk so loud, it'll be fine. All right. Anyway.
If I don't talk so. Okay.
We've talked about Pierre quite a bit on this show, obviously, over the years. Deserved for that guy to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I was iffy on it a few years ago, and then I actually did like a
deep dive, came around on it. Yeah.
How good was this run, really?
It was really good.
It was really good. Yeah, it was exceptional. So that moved me into the totally do it. I think it's great. I changed my mind on that one a couple of years ago, and feel great that he's in now. I think it's well earned.
Yep, 100%. So congratulations over there again.
What an amazing family too. It's just
totally.
Some truly wonderful people that get to celebrate. So
they're awesome.
Wherever Eric is right now, I hope he's
having a good time.
Yeah.
I wonder how much time they give him. Like, did they call Eric 3 minutes before the tweet goes out, or did they call him like a week ago?
Probably this morning.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, not the main topic we wanted to get into today.
Not a whole lot to say.
Yeah. Obviously, Pierre was the GM of the Avs' crazy run of winning their division forever in a row.
Yeah.
But we've talked about him a lot on the show again, so you can just go to our YouTube channel and search Pierre Lacroix, and you'll find hours and hours of content on him. 2Cs.
Something we haven't talked much about.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong on that. But yesterday we kind of talked about the only real free agent option would be Ryan O'Reilly, as the chat is mentioning.
Well, so let me. There are two other names that I will put on that list and just say, hey, let's talk about them real quick, okay?
One of them's Barbashev, I assume.
One of them is Barbashev. The other one's Erik Haula.
I have no interest in Erik Haula as a center, especially the Avs 2C.
What do you mean as a center?
I don't think he makes any sense for Colorado as a center.
Okay.
I would play him on the wing if the Avs went out and got him, which I don't think they should do at all, for the record.
Okay. It just got really bright in here.
The sun came out, bud.
Yeah, no kidding. Anyway, no, I think so with Barbashev. I think that's an interesting. I think that's an interesting conversation, just because he is having that he's kind of having that Arturi Lehkonen got onto a cup contender, had a really good postseason. This could be like that. Hey, he's been building and building and building for a few years in bottom sixes.
But is
now
it
he's
real
taking
or
that
not?
step forward.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. His numbers in Vegas are great. He did have that 60-point year with St. Louis.
Last year.
Yeah, their round to 2022.
He was one of their 920
round, rather. Yep. He was one of the 20 goal scorers. Good for him.
So he's got two. He's had 2 years where you feel like the offense has taken that step forward. The big thing there is that as a center, his defensive results. When I say they're atrocious, I mean like terrible. Not like, hey, these aren't very
Yeah.
good. These are slightly below average. We're talking about his on ice results as a center are horrific.
Yeah. Just disastrously bad.
It has been his on ice results have strongly suggested, and there we go, have strongly suggested that he needs to be a wing and only a wing. That if you're going to get your money's value, your real value out of him, it has to be along the wall. It cannot be in the middle of the ice.
Yeah,
And that's where he needs to come off the board for Colorado, because he's going to get paid real money.
that's where I'm at with it. Is I'm concerned about the cost that guy's going to bring for a guy who probably provides you good offense, but is he going to be able to function for you? And maybe there's a world where you say, you put Val next to him, the Evs have some strong defensive wingers, but I just don't see a world where you're ending up on a good value contract for Ivan Barbashev.
Yeah.
Particularly after the playoffs he just had, where some team's going to way overpay for that.
Yeah, he's probably looking at $5 or $6 million.
Yeah, and I have zero interest in giving that guy $6 million.
To be honest with you, even if I thought he could play 2C,
yeah,
I don't think I would give him $6 million.
If
you're gonna give $6 million to somebody, like, I'm just not signing up for that guy. For me, that's why I have Erik Haula on my list of guys to watch. I'm not excited about it, but if it's just gonna be free, if it's just money, you might be able to get away with it, and you might be able to have that conversation of, is having 2 3Cs better than trying to force one guy into the 2C job?
I mean, having better than both of that is just having a real 2C.
Okay, but as we've discussed and will continue to discuss, that's not that easy.
I know, and we'll get to that. And look, if you're getting Erik Haula for $3 million or less, sure, you can float him into that 2C spot. If it doesn't work, like I said, you can move him to the wing if you want to, or you can move him down the lineup. For the right price point, I get it, but I just, if I went out and got him, my expectation would not be for him to be their 2C.
I guess my question would be, are you better off signing one Ivan Barbashev to do that job, to be your 2C, or are you better off? I know how we feel about it. But
fair
this
enough,
is the conversation. Or is it more? Would you be better off splitting that money in half and giving $3 million to Erik Haula and $3 million to Evan Rodriguez? And maybe it's more like $4 million, and it's not exactly
numbers
half,
or whatever.
You know what
I
mean?
Yeah.
Is it if you're allocating that money, are you better off giving it to Ivan Barbashev, one guy to do that job, or are you better off trying to go Evan Rodriguez and Erik Haula, just as an example?
So I think I would say no. Because
you're not better off doing that?
Right. Because, okay. And I get it, like every NHL team needs to find contract value somewhere. I understand that. But the Avs are at a point where, assuming relative health, 2C is very clearly the weakest point in their lineup. So don't mess around with it. Just solve the problem and then deal with your other outcomes. Stop trying to halfway it and halfway solve the problem. Just solve the problem and then deal with your other problems.
Okay. Just go get a 2C.
And I'm not, like, obviously if O'Reilly doesn't want to come, he doesn't want to come. If no one wants to be that dance partner in a trade, then you have to do what you have to do. But if the option to solve that problem, if you believe that problem can be solved by a Barbashev, don't mess with it. Just go do it.
Yeah. So if you look at last year as a waste because they didn't win the Stanley Cup, I don't know what to tell you.
You're at 99% of years are a waste then, unfortunately.
Yeah. I just don't. Had they been fully healthy come postseason, I think they would have gotten. They might have won multiple rounds. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows? Who knows? If they'd been healthy, who knows what happens last year? Even taking away Landy completely.
forget if Cale Makar is in for Game 5, they probably get out of the first round.
There's a good their margin of error for getting out of that round was that big. Like
literally one goal.
Nothing under the sun went right for them, and they lost 2-1 in Game 7. Like, give me a break with this.
I don't think they win the cup or anything, but
yeah, I'm just saying. I don't think these kinds of contracts for Ryan O'Reilly kind of blow me away because I guess I just don't think it's going to be that. I just don't think that Ryan O'Reilly is going to get that big long-term commitment from somebody this year.
Be pretty. I could see someone going like really stupid and giving him a 4-year deal. I'd be shocked if anyone gave him more than that.
I think a 4 or 5-year deal is on the table here. And I think that's reasonable for him and his career and his age and where he's at. But coming off the year, like Nazem Kadri got the deal that he got because he had the season that he did.
Yep. O'Reilly, it's not like he popped off last year.
Right. He didn't have a particularly strong finish.
Yep. He was
or start or middle or any of it.
I mean, I guess he was pretty good in Toronto, but ultimately
the numbers betray the play because he
definitely, yeah.
When they asked him to be 3C, he was not good enough.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, so let's get into this room. You can either go Barbashev or O'Reilly. Why do they fit in Colorado and why don't they?
Well, so Barbashev is younger. He's on the ascent right now. Again, using Arturi Lehkonen, is that comparable? Guy that's been here for a while. Guy that's been in the league for a while. Knows how to play. He's just in his prime. He's just playing better than he ever has. Like, he's just, boom, right there.
Yep.
So,
if you believe he's the answer to 2C, he's your answer at 2C for the foreseeable future, right?
Exactly. And with O'Reilly, so with Barbashev, you like it. There's a goal scorer there that has not gotten to play in a crazy offensive environment most of his career. And when he has, he's excelled in the last couple of seasons. So you like that part about him. He's a heavy guy. He's broken 2 sternums in a row in 2 years, right? Like, he hits. Like, he's always been a very physical guy. He's always been a good bottom 6 guy. The big thing for me is that his on-ice results in his own zone they're not just
horrific.
These aren't good. They're really, really, really bad. That's a concern. It's a really hard thing to try and turn over that level, that caliber of job to a guy that has not shown an ability, not even like it's inconsistent or whatever, but has not shown an ability to do this. Yep. So it's, with Barbashev, he's probably way better off as a wing, and the Avs, it makes no sense. It makes no sense for the Avalanche to invest in a wing.
I don't think it makes no sense, but
like,
again,
they need
2C
one
is the
for their
problem
top
they need
6.
to solve.
They need a wing for their top 6 right now, but they just showed they got away with it with Evan Rodriguez.
Exactly.
There's a million options that they have this summer that they could get a guy to be that wing and play up. And if they still don't have one, going and getting a decent one at the deadline is not hard to do. Trying to fill a secondary wing job it's not incredibly difficult. Mm-hmm. And that's where but that's why the Avs can't invest that. It's why there should be no Ivan Barbashev at wing conversation. There should be no Tyler Bertuzzi conversation. They don't need that. You need a center.
You need to solve your problem before you start doing things that are like luxuries.
Yeah, and like you need a 5th defenseman, or 6th, whatever. You need another defenseman in your starting lineup. You probably need 2 so that you're not relying on Curtis McDermott. And if we're at that point, I don't know why that $1 million continues to just sit on your books. Move it away, but whatever. Not going to go down that road.
Yeah, and we've covered that a few times.
It's really like this is why O'Reilly is more appealing than the other guys, is because he's capable of doing that job. He's still a very good defensive player. You're going to surround him with at least one really good defensive player in
No matter
either
how it
Arturi
shakes out.
Lehkonen
Yeah.
or Val Nichushkin. One of those guys is going to be on that line, or you've given him Mikko Rantanen.
In
Like,
which case, he should score 90 points.
he's only in a good situation in those spots. And then I guess in the world where no, you couldn't even do it. Yeah, nope, there's no other world. Those are the only two options. So, like, you're in a great spot there. And with O'Reilly, yes, he's 32 already. He's in his decline. You can just see it. His numbers, his underlying numbers, everything. The aging curve is hitting him. He's never been fleet of foot. It's going to hit him pretty hard. So you've got to be careful there about giving him 5 years. I would be comfortable with 3. But if I'm comfortable with 3, then the contract he probably deserves is 4.
I think the thing you have to understand with a player like O'Reilly is, as long as he understands how to play, even when his skating does start to go, he'll be okay. He won't have the offensive punch that he used to, but that's a guy that could easily transition into a shutdown third line center for you as he starts to age.
Yeah, and in the perfect world, Ryan O'Reilly is your 2C this year. Alex Newhook is your 3C. By the end of the year, maybe they're splitting it a little bit.
If
then
Newhook has a 50-point season or something, yeah.
Exactly. And then a year from now, we're having the conversation of O'Reilly is now going to drop down and be more of your 3C while Newhook starts to take the 2C job with Landy coming back.
You're running a 2A, 2B, you can shut down with O'Reilly and you can play a little bit more offensively with Newhook, right, in theory. Now, in the immediate, I don't think you're relying on Newhook for sure to break out. If he does, great, and you use that. But to start next season, whoever the Avs go out and get to do that job is going to be the 2C pretty much by themselves to start.
Yeah, it should be their job. Yeah. And unless they do like what we talked about earlier, if they
smaller move, sure.
If they do the Howla Erod thing, then you do open that door for Alex Newhook to walk through it during the season.
Yeah.
Something like that is a possibility. Fine. Like I'm good there, man. Like I think O'Reilly continues to be my favorite option in terms of free agents. The risk, and we've talked about this before, the risk of waiting till free agency to do it is that if you don't do it on July 1st, if you swing and miss on Ryan O'Reilly, you swing and miss on
and there's nothing
Howla and Erod and Barbashev, if what's his face, if Jordan Stahl makes it to market, you can't get that guy. What do you do?
Yeah. Now there's either nothing out there or there's a team that's going to hold you hostage for the price of their guy.
Well, and now you're in trouble, but now you also don't have, had you made a trade 3 days earlier, you could have included a first round pick. And teams almost always prefer, I want the pick now because I can make the pick now, and then that guy can play for me in 3 years, instead of I'll take 2 picks, one next year and 1 2 years from now, where 6 years from now, it's probably a different GM making those picks.
Even a 1 year difference in picks has a significant impact on the value.
Yeah, definitely. And because the draft and free agency are so close together, those moves are going to happen. Bang bang.
Yep.
So that's when you get into it, that is where I think that is where there is a sense of urgency to try and have this done before free agency opens. Because then again, if you open yourself up, if you go into free agency and you say Ryan O'Reilly is our guy, we're going to do this. If he knows that, congrats, you just handed a shark all the leverage.
Yeah.
Like that guy is going to take you for absolutely as much money as he possibly can, and then he's probably going to shop the offer 4 or 5 times
to see if someone else will pay more. Yeah.
Yeah. And once he gets another team to agree to up that price, he's going to come back to you, shop that offer, and this is how he works. This is how a guy who has made getting paid a priority his entire career is going to operate. I'm not even Not even saying it's a bad thing. Do your thing. Get paid. Value yourself out there and see if somebody will agree to it. But if you're the Avs, that's the game that you're playing. That's the danger that you put yourself in if you go to free agency day with this uncertainty. Now, the trade market will still be there. There will still be options. Elias Lindholm, Mikhail Backlund.
We'll get into those in a second. Yeah.
For whatever reason, Chat has decided today that Mark Scheifele is the guy that we're going to talk about. Seems like every day Chat adopts a new 2C.
Picked a new dude.
Yeah. To be like, hey, what about this guy?
I do want to get into some of those guys. I do want to get into archetyping a guy a little bit too. Before we do that, we are brought to you by Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. You can get yours at your local liquor store. Use the Breck Beer Locator online at breckbrew.com to find it near you. Keep your eyes out for the Mountain Beach Sour. It's finally starting to feel like summer. It is the first day of summer, so get yourself a refreshing beer. Maybe the Strawberry Sky is your style too. Delicious, light, fresh beers from Breckenridge Brewery. Check them out. Come to the bar. There's 8 different kinds on tap there too. And then when you come into the bar, get here safe. Just in case something bad happens, though, you can call 222-2222. Get a hold of Bacchus and Schenker. If you've been in a car accident, if there was like a rideshare situation like we talked about the other day, it's not your fault, or any other situation where you've been injured and you were not at fault, Bacchus and Schenker will get you what you deserve. Again, you can call them at the 2 number, or you can go to coloradolaw.net. They will give you a free consultation, and if they think you have a case, they will take your case on for completely free. You pay them nothing until you win your case. So jump on it with Bacchus and Schenker today. Make sure you're getting what you deserve. They've been doing it for 25 years here in Colorado and won over $1 billion for their clients. It's a lot of money. It's like we have this conversation. I guess we don't, but I've had this conversation a lot. People don't actually understand how much $1 billion is.
So you've ever tried? I think the way that you can really figure it out is try to spend it.
Yep.
If they gave you 24 hours, you have 24 hours to spend $1 billion, and you'll get another $1 billion for the rest of your life. Good luck, dude.
Yep. Hey, I could buy every house in my neighborhood and not spend $1 billion.
How funny would that be, man? You're like, I am the HOA.
Right. It's an insane amount of money. Go check them out, Bacchus and Schenker. Press the 2 number. Get a hold of them. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by whoever I want it to be presented by.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a weird flex. Weird flex, my man.
Before we get into specifics here, I want to ask you this more archetypally. Obviously, you've kind of alluded to it with the difference between O'Reilly and Barbashev, with Barbashev being terrible defensively. Mm-hmm. Where are you drawing these lines? Like, if you get an ace defensive center, but he's only going to give you 40 points, is that good enough for a 2C? If you get a guy who's weak defensively, does he need to be a 70-point guy?
I would say I would say I want 20 goals, no matter what.
Okay, full stop, 20 goals.
I want a 20-goal score, and the exception to I want 20 goals is if they get Kevin Hayes and he scores his customary 18, but has 40 assists.
Right.
We cool.
Obviously,
I'm a reasonable man.
Yeah. If the dude produces, you understand. If his line mates have 30 goals each, you can understand him not having 20 goals.
Yeah, if that guy gets dropped in between 2 guys who have career years, you feel like he probably did his job?
Yeah. It's fair enough.
Yeah. So, I would say my preference, and this is because right now, I think penciled in, right now your 3rd and 4th line centers are Alex Newhook and Ben Myers.
Yeah, I would agree.
And so, and again, penciled in.
They could be replaced for sure.
We'll see. Right now, your bottom 6, which is one reason why I think that this whole, they need to find a bottom 6 or whatever, is half of it's there, guys.
Yep.
Alex Newhook, Ben Myers, and Logan O'Connor are there.
Not going anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I would say, yeah, finding the next Nichushkin would be great.
Yeah, if you can
They've been,
find a guy that can be that effective for you at that price,
yeah. There's
you're
a reason you
good.
remember that guy and not the 16 guys since the teams have tried as reclamation prod.
That
Like it's
have
very
not
very hard to do.
that most of
They're
which
gonna try.
haven't even been NHLers at the end of those contracts.
It's I would say Nichushkin. Find your next Burakovsky is probably more likely than your next
Yeah, a guy
next
that actually
Nichushkin.
looks like there's some upside on.
Yeah.
I think that's a better name to compare to as far as looking for value.
Well, and like you're just not going to find guys who have one side of their game that they've mastered the art of, and then the second half, the other end of the ice, all of a sudden
it's just
it
empty. Yeah,
boom, it goes from empty to it's an empty pool to a full pool where you're like, what in the world? What? Because now all of us Val had 0 goals in the year he got bought out.
Yep.
And now it's a reasonable expectation that guy puts up 20 goals for you and 60 points.
Yep.
The money and the contract that he got, that's now the conversation with that guy.
Yep.
So you're talking about a guy that was this close to being out of the league,
being a star player now.
Yeah, to being just like the level below star player. It's finding that guy again is going to be tough, but a great challenge. Like that's absolutely what they should be.
And
at.
if they do it, they're probably high-fiving, slapping hands because they won another Stanley Cup.
It's true. Like that's exactly those kinds of guys get underpaid, and that's where that's how you find success is you underpay the right guys.
Yep.
Where were we? Answering your question about 60 points and all that. Yeah. Because of the situation with McKinnon, Newhook, and Myers right now, I think the preference should be on a guy that's good defensively.
Okay, so
doesn't have to be elite. That's going to be hard to find, but good.
Of course. All right, look. Joe Sakic calls up Rob Blake, and it's like, hey, remember how I won you that cup? Time to pay up. Give us Phil Deneau.
Phil Deneau.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like, would you take the Logan Couture chance?
If they retain some, I'm not taking on that full contract.
Yeah, the answer would be F no. Say they retain $2 million per year for the next 4 years.
So it ends up being $6 million.
It's 6 straight up, but he's already 34. Is that enough for you?
Can they retain a year? Is that an option?
Knowing that he had a 67-point year last year, and he really hasn't had like a major dip in his game. He had during the 56-game season when the Sharks were like an abomination.
Yeah, he
wasn't very good.
A quality player when you put decent players around him. Even like when the Sharks were terrible, like in a full season, this guy's an automatic 55-plus point guy.
Yeah. To answer chat's question of how often do teams retain multiple years at multiple millions?
Very rarely.
Not often at all. Which is one reason why I think the San Jose thing's probably a waste of time because they're going to prioritize moving Karlsson first, and they're going to have to eat salary on that deal. I don't know that they're going to use another salary retention spot.
So my thing there would be, and I know Hertl has an NMC, so he would have to agree to go. But if San Jose was willing to get rid of Couture, why wouldn't the question be, okay, how much more do we have to add for it to be Hertl?
Couture's one, he's going to be cheaper, and two, he's closer to the end.
I know he's cheaper, and I just don't think you're worried about the end with Hertl.
Well, theoretically, I think they view Hertl as a guy that can contribute in their next window. He might be at the end, You know, like it could be 3 years from now, but I think they view him as he could be the Sharks captain by that point.
Sure, the transitionary center. I get what you're saying, but I just don't. I'd have way more interest in it if it was Hurdle, and the Hurdle the Avs probably can't really afford him at $8 million, but I wouldn't
No.
even be asking for retention there, obviously. Yeah, again, if the Couture thing was like even 3 years, I'd be a lot more interested in it, but I think that contract probably just ends up being dead at the end of it.
Okay. I mean, I have no idea how he ages.
Sure. You never know, right? Guys, there are guys who do age into their 40s and it's fine, but
Yeah.
they're few and far between.
Yep.
I actually don't know Couture's underlying defensive numbers either. I assume they're fine.
They're fine.
But yeah.
They're fine. They're not. It's not a plus or a minus for me.
And that's
It's
as
neutral.
long as he's not killing you, you're okay.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, you would prefer like a Ryan O'Reilly type. You know, this is why I had the Byram Sorelli thing the other day, is because I thought it was fun. Where that's a Selke caliber player. It's 25 years old. You know, like that's okay. He's signed. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I mean, trying to poach RFAs and stuff, you're just not going to find a 2C like this. This trying to pull off the Igor Sharangovich kind of thing. That's for a middle six guy.
Yep.
And for wings especially, you're really not going to find like, hey, like you're going to have to go to somebody and be like, we're trying to get this guy, and they're going to be like, they think he's the 2C for them, and they're going to value him as such. You know, it's like the Middlestat thing.
Yep.
You know, if you think Casey Middlestat could do that job, all right, well, he's actually got some pretty decent defensive numbers that he's put up. He finished the year absolutely white hot on fire with 13 points in 8 games in April. Like he was awesome at the end of the year for Buffalo, and he finally started to fulfill that potential and blah 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 blah. But they've got Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins. They don't really need Casey Middlestat. That's where the appeal is there. But if you're Colorado, there's all kinds of concerns about one-hit wonder and on-ice shooting percentages. And the only thing that kept his PDO from being absolutely hilarious last year is that they couldn't get a save. Because his on-ice shooting percentage was pretty high.
For what it's worth to that crowd, too, he's also terrible in the face-off circle.
Oh, terrible. How many really small guys have ever actually been good at it?
There are very few undersized centers that really dominate the face-off circle for sure. Strength matters, I guess.
Well, and that's like you're just talking about like reach, and you're right on top of another dude. You can just engulf that guy.
So put together for me a list of trade available centers that the Avs could reasonably go after. Middlestat, maybe Couture, Lindholm and Backlund, one of those.
I still think the Calgary guys are a no until the season starts and they get an idea of what's going to happen. Now, if both of those guys tell Craig Conroy, hey, I'm not signing, or I'm not going to sign with you this summer, and he feels like, I don't really want to take this chance, I'm going to move you now while I have lots of suitors, instead of waiting for the deadline and hoping that 2 or 3 teams that can afford them have what I want.
Pay crazy amounts, yeah.
Exactly. I do think Florida, especially with the Panthers news that Ekblad and Montour are going to be injured well into the start of the season. Man, does that sound like Sam Girard's music to me? And if that's where you start trying to build a deal, Sam Girard and Sam Bennett. You're preferring Bennett for a number of reasons. He's signed for 2 seasons. He's under $5 million.
It's the money. Yeah, it's the money.
He's under $5 million. He's less player than Sam Reinhart. He's not going to sign for nearly as much. He brings that nastiness to your team.
With that. Yeah.
You know, I mean, go out and add Sam Bennett and then sign Corey Perry, and all of a sudden, You're team
Well,
douchebag in the
yeah,
blink of an eye.
every team in the league hates you now.
Yeah. They already dreaded playing you, and now they have, oh, God, they added those guys?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think I would have the Sam Bennett conversation. Again, though, Sam Bennett has profiled in his career much better as a 3C than a 2C.
Yeah, that's the one thing with going to Florida if Reinhart is there. Obviously, it's a 1-year deal with Reinhart. He's way more expensive. But he can play in the top 6 for sure.
Yeah, they're also like Reinhart. There's a strong argument that Sam Reinhart is better on a right wing than he is at center.
I think that's a fair argument. I would put him at center if the Avs are going out and doing it, but
well, and especially with Florida having Anton Lundell available, keeping Reinhart at wing is probably the smart play.
yeah.
If they do trade Sam Bennett, if they do dip into their forwards for a defenseman, I think Sam Bennett would be a smart target as well. Just he checks a lot of boxes for you, and he's still imperfect. That's not a guy that has shown the offensive prowess during the regular season to make you feel like he's an actual 2C here.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Hayes, I think he's on the lower end of options.
I would agree.
But you don't have the contract. The contract makes him more valuable.
The contract makes him more valuable, not just because it's not even $4.5 million, but because of that price point and the second year, you're not doing any shuffling next year. In a world where Landy does come back, he just sits there and you don't have to worry about it at that price point.
Yeah, and then you talk yourself into, Landeskog, Sam Bennett, and Val Nichushkin as your second line.
Mhm.
Sounds
nightmarish.
It just sounds not fun to. That is what you're rolling out after your Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen combination hops off the ice. God, dude.
One dude beats you to death with offense, and then the other line just actually beats you to death.
Yeah, exactly. You spend the entire time defending, and then you spend the entire time protecting yourself. It's.
I think there are, and that's kind of what makes this offseason interesting for the Avs. If they are looking at the trade market, there are a lot of options that could fit, and they have to find a way to pick the right one. We'll get into that a little bit more. We are brought to you by the fantastic folks over at Pins and Aces. They are the official golf apparel merchandiser of DNVR. You can get all of your awesome stuff, including hats, shirts, pants, cleats, towels, or maybe their most important stuff is the liquor stick and the beer sleeve. Let's be real. You can get the liquor stick. You can be serving drinks out of your golf bag. You can get the beer sleeve. You can bring 7 beers onto the course with you right in your bag. It's super easy, super awesome. You can use code DNVR when you go to pinsandaces.com to get 15% and free shipping on your first order with Pins and Aces. I think I forget the details, but we have a golf tournament coming up this summer too with them, where you can get a bunch of awesome stuff, including a DNVR golf towel. So
nice.
Go check that out. Go to DNVR.com and look at our golf stuff. Also brought to you by Shady Rays. Make sure you're looking good on the face area when you're on the golf course too, and that you're not blinding yourself with the sun. Go to shadyrays.com today. Use code DNVR. If you buy 2 pairs or more, you get 50% off. It's basically buy one, get one free. They've got tons of styles. They've got tons of polarizations. They've even got ski and snowboard goggles if that's your thing. So they've got you covered for any of your sunglass wear, whatever you might need. They've been rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. So check them out either online at shadyrays.com, or if you're local, you can go to the Park Meadows Mall where they have a brick and mortar. They will also replace your sunglasses in the first 30 days, no questions asked. So jump on it with Shady Rays. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by whoever I want still. You have all of these options. You're Colorado. How do you wade through this? How do you narrow down what you want to target in this offseason?
It's tough, man.
Yeah, I look, I'm sure if you had the perfect answer, you'd be working for Colorado's front office and telling them, go get this guy.
I've had the perfect answer on multiple occasions, and they just ignore me.
Yeah, well, maybe they should hire you.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, Reddit would be mad. I don't know, man. I think some of it has to come down to building a full picture, right? Because there's been this conversation out of Philly that the Flyers might be willing to retain $1 million or $2 million on Kevin Hayes' deal
Sure.
if they can just give him away.
And
So
just
let me
not have
ask
to
you,
pay.
if they retain enough money to get it to $5 million, he's got some weird notes like 7 and change or whatever.
Yeah. If they were willing to retain $2 million, I'm having that conversation for sure.
If it was for future considerations, literally nothing. They just gave you Kevin Hayes at $5 million for the next 3 years. That's your commitment to that deal, is the money.
Yep.
Are you doing it? Are you doing it and saying that's our 2C? Let's get to work on everything else?
I think so. Assuming, the one thing I would want to do with him is make sure he passes the physical and there's no long-term issues there, because he has not had a particularly healthy career.
Okay.
But assuming he passes the physical and is good to go, yeah, I would not mind Kevin Hayes for $5 million.
Just for free.
Yeah, for nothing.
Okay. I agree with you, because if I got that offer, and I guess let's work it this way. Where's your line on that deal? If they say, "Hey, we want 27th overall,"
for Kevin Hayes retained $2 million,
Yep.
Boy, it wouldn't be my first choice. I would look at other trade options before that.
Okay, which ones?
Anything from Calgary would be interesting. I know you said they probably won't do it in the off season. I would probably at least call Winnipeg and see what's going on
with PLD
over there.
and Scheifele.
Yeah.
Okay. PLD, it sounds like it's going to be a sign and trade, so that's probably going to be a no-go.
I've kind of assumed PLD just wasn't going to happen for various reasons.
So Scheifele, where's your line on Scheifele? Keep in mind this is a guy coming off a 40-goal season and is probably, of the players that we've talked about, I think the only one that I would say surefire, in my opinion, is a better fit in Colorado is Lindholm.
I would agree with that. The thing with Scheifele is he's affordable enough, right? You don't have to ask them to retain if you don't want to. It is the 1 year, so that's you're not gonna give up the universe for that guy.
Yep.
You're talking about the first for sure. You're probably talking about Olausen, whatever, fine. Pick a prospect that they were interested in.
Barons.
Sure. And then what? What are they going to want? What off the roster?
If I'm Winnipeg, I want Gerard. If Colorado says we're not doing that for a guy with 1 year,
yeah,
would you then just say, okay, well, then we want both firsts, 2023 and 2024,
and Barons,
and probably Olausen, because Barons won't move the needle enough for that.
That's 4 firsts, man. That's too much for a rental, I think.
What?
Barons is a second, my bad. Or a third even. I forget.
Oh, you're counting Olausen as a...
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're doing 2 firsts and Olausen and Barons, I guess it's 3 firsts and Barons, but I think that's just a little too much.
Why?
Because
for a guy who scored 40 goals last year and is a legit, it will be going from playing top line center to playing second line center.
I'm not saying he's not worth it. I'm just saying that is the Avs 1,000% emptying the cupboards for 1 year of Mark Scheifele. Okay. And if they win the cup, obviously, who cares, right? It's worth it.
Well, and is there a world where it goes really well and you just say we're going to keep him?
Yes, but they would have to be able to afford him.
Yeah, I mean, his next deal would have to be $8 or $9 million.
Right, and that's where it gets tough for Colorado keeping him, I think.
Okay, so
It's-
you're saying you're good with 3, not 4.
Yep, I'll give him 3
Okay.
pieces. If it's 2 firsts and Barons, fine.
The one big thing that I would say about Scheifele is I think that there's a serious conversation about, one, defensively he's not very good, as the comment on the screen is mentioning right now. Defensively he's not very good. Pretty
know.
bad. But
I think I'm also a bigger believer in stapling a Val Nichushkin next to whoever they get and living with it defensively than you are. But
I would also say that the defensive results in his career have been all over the place.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it, because he'll go from being one of the worst defensive centers in a year to a guy that has a pretty solid year.
Yeah. And the thing is with Colorado too, I think at a certain point you say, hey, we believe in Valentushkin, we believe in Arturi Lehkonen, we also believe in our defense of,
Yeah.
especially if they're not moving on from either of Gerard or Taves. I think you believe a lot in the Avs top 4D to be able to handle whatever the offense in front of them is doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they were to do a move like the other thing with Scheifele, the attitude issues.
That is a bigger problem for me, for sure.
The locker room in Winnipeg has been really, really off for a number of years. Scheifele and Blake Wheeler have been kind of at the heart of a lot of that dysfunction.
Yep.
It will be interesting to see how those careers go now that they appear to be getting split apart, and both appear on their way out of Winnipeg. It'll be interesting to see if this was these two guys brought out the worst in each other, or if they both just kind of suck, or
I mean, I think that's part of almost makes it more enticing for it being a 1-year rental, because it's like, all right, if that dude sucks, it's just 1 year of him in the locker room. He doesn't tear your organization apart.
I guess for me, I'm just not interested in messing with it, because if I'm willing to pay those prices, if I'm willing to pay those kinds of prices, I feel like I can get a pretty good player that doesn't come attached with he's leaving after 1 year and he might just suck as a human. Like in my locker room, like he may just not be a great guy.
Well, look, and if the option of Lindholm is available in Calgary, I'm dropping Scheifele like a sack of bricks, man. Like, he's not my first option either, but
I mean, wouldn't you even consider Backlund over that guy?
Yeah, I would.
He's a worse player, but maybe a better fit, and cost-wise, it might be a little cheaper.
Cheaper, both in actual money and in actual assets given up. Yeah,
and that guy might be the Flames' next captain. Like, you're having the exact opposite conversation
He's
about
perfect
leadership
for the
with
room.
that dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would definitely have both of those conversations. If Calgary is open to moving those guys, both of them are ahead of Scheifele on my list.
I think for me, I think I'm good on the Jets guys. PLD was the guy that I was interested in, and that sounds like it's going to come with an extension.
I would love PLD too. I just don't see how it happens.
Yep, I agree with you. If they could find a way to financially make that work, like, hey, if moving Gerard would open up enough money that they could keep Taves next year and Dubois long term,
PLD or whatever, yeah.
Dude, it's 1,000% worth. Please do that. But I just don't think they're in that conversation. I don't know that it would be financially viable with a Rantanen deal also on the near horizon.
A couple years ahead,
Yeah. So Vancouver open to moving JT Miller. Are they open to moving JT Miller? I would say, who cares? I'm not taking on that contract under any circumstances.
It is a problem. It goes till he's 37. Yeah.
The Clayton Keller thing. So Josh asks about. He brings up Clayton Keller. Once again, we're in this room of you're giving up a lot of assets, and what have you solved? You get Clayton Keller. How Clayton Keller in Colorado would be nasty. He would be awesome. He was the guy I had the huge prospect crush on in his draft year. I love Clayton Keller.
Your thing, though. Yeah.
But he's playing on the left side. Val Nichushkin is playing on the right side, and right in the middle of them is a question mark. But Clayton Keller's making $7 million, and you just gave up all those assets for Clayton Keller.
All right, full blockbuster. You get Keller and Schmaltz.
They're very good friends, for the record.
Package them together.
So what? Fuck it. Let's just have the conversation real quick. We should probably just call up Craig real quick and be like,
Yeah, no kidding,
bud. But if they wanted to do both, okay. So let's say it's the next two firsts.
Mm-hmm. At least, like, that's
let me ask you,
would
you do 3
for both of them? Yes.
You do 3 firsts, and then what else would you have to give? Because that wouldn't be enough.
So I'm assuming it's 3 firsts. I'm assuming it's Barons or Olausen, maybe both.
I would think you'd have to give up Newhook in this.
Yeah, I was gonna say Newhook or Gerard, whichever one they want.
Okay, so I would say let's say Newhook and Barons.
Uh-huh.
Is there any line on that? Like, would you just like stop somewhere and be like, this might be too much, or would you just be like, screw this?
It would be. I think there's a line somewhere, but it would be hard to get there, I think.
So the only real concern here with this line of thinking, with this whole conversation, is if Landy is healthy and comes
and
back,
Keller's suddenly on your third line making $7 million.
Well, then you've lost Devontae's.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no conversation about keeping him at that point, right?
No,
I don't know. Maybe that's when you trade Sam Girard next summer. You trade him for future first round picks.
I think
something.
even then he might still be gone. If you're giving Keller and Schmaltz's money.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I
don't know.
It'd be a wild trade. I don't see a world where that actually gets done. But if the Avs did it without losing too much of their own roster, their top 6 is good for the foreseeable future.
Oof. Well, and then the Nick Schmaltz thing remains. He has not been playing center in Arizona on a consistent basis.
It's true.
When his points have blown up, it's been when he's moved to right wing with Keller on the left wing and somebody in the middle. This last year, it was Barrett Hayton at the end. Travis Boyd spent a lot of time there.
Yep.
You know. Anyway.
But a guy that can play center and would have a whole lot more talent around him in Colorado.
If you were just spitballing here about the Keller thing, if you're Arizona and St. Louis calls and says, we'll give you all 3 of our first round picks this year and our first round pick next year, 4 firsts in 2 years, straight up for Clayton Keller.
But the thing is,
it's almost like an offer sheet.
2 of their firsts this year suck, though.
They're going to be in the 20s, yeah. And the pick next year, if things go well for the Blues, probably in the 20s.
I just don't think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Arizona would do it. It's not like they're close to being competitive, but I would want a roster player.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure that they'd be like, sure, you can also have Jake Neighbors, fine.
Okay, relax, bud. Your love for Jake Neighbors, man.
Robo Rudo.
I'm not even saying that that's a good thing. Jake Neighbors, or I think they had Zach Bolduc, and they got Zach Dean out of the Barbashev deal. So wouldn't even have to be Jake Neighbors. I'm just trying to pull young guys.
Yeah, and you're correct in that they would want someone on the younger side of the spectrum, but
I don't think Kerfoot's coming back as 2C.
I don't think Kerfoot
Personally.
is a 2C.
He's not.
Was he even a center really in Toronto? They played him on the wing plenty.
Yeah. Scott Perunovich, nice.
Anyway,
St. Louis honestly can't be going hard for forwards.
Nope.
If they are, they need to go get a center.
They need to. I just don't know what St. Louis does, man. They need to entirely rebuild their defense. Like, they're just stuck.
That's the thing. Is like when I was making those blockbuster trade proposals the other day, I was like, could I get Braden Shen or Pavel Buchnevich out of there? And it was like, maybe, but they need defense.
Yeah.
And I can't just give them another defenseman and be like, hey, now you have a 5th long-term contract on your hands on defense. It was like, they've got to get rid of some of that money, and I'm not taking Nick Leddy back. Hell no.
No. Yeah, they made their own grave with Nick Leddy. Actually, like, I know a lot of people wouldn't like it. I wouldn't hate Colton Parayko on the Avs, but
Oh, me neither.
why would they
That's-
ever do that?
That
Yeah.
contract though.
It's the end
it's-
of it's bad. Yeah,
Its length is
Yeah.
scary to me.
for sure.
So
Anyway, I think we covered
dude.
most of it.
If Logan Cooley straight up told Arizona today, I'm not signing with you guys, yeah, of course I'd be interested.
As would 31 other teams. Well, 30 other teams, I guess.
The problem would be everybody else could outbid the Avs, and I
Yep.
don't think he plays center in the NHL.
Definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I don't know about Velarde. I'm just not
I have
interested.
no interest in Velarde as well. Back problems just don't get better.
Well, and he was already not a very good skater before all the injury stuff. Like, you're talking about a real stylistic misfit there.
Agree.
And
skating stride is.
I do want to touch
heinous.
on before we get out of this. I want to touch on the two CBJ guys here
Sure.
because
I
they're about
don't
to
really
about to draft one.
I don't have any interest.
So as 2C, Boone Jenner is very much like a Kevin Hayes for me, where I'm like, this is a lower end option.
I think
It's
he's
fine.
well
big
lower
thing
than
with-
Kevin Hayes.
Well, the big thing with Boone Jenner is that he's really important to Columbus.
Sure. He is the
Like,
captain.
He's their captain. Like, he is a guy that, like, he's like a ride and die in Columbus. Like, he's a really important guy in Columbus, and which is one reason why I don't think there's any interest. Roslovic is interesting. Now, I've always been a little
I think he's
partial to
more
him,
interesting than Boone Jenner for sure.
but every time Winnipeg tried this,
He
and
doesn't-
now
he can't
Columbus
do
has
it. Yeah.
tried it, and he has not stepped up when he's been given those roles. And then you get to the end of the year, his underlying numbers are okay. They're not very good. You're not looking at it going, oh my god. And then he's got a 45-point season, and you're like, how does this happen?
Is he just JT Compher?
But better, because he has a 20-goal season under his belt.
I mean, he doesn't have a 50-point year. JT Compher's got that now.
True facts. But what happens if Jack Roslovic gets to play 30 games next to Mikko Rantanen?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
What happens, man? So I would say I would agree with you on Jenner, and I would also just say I don't think it makes a lot of sense.
I mean,
from Columbus's side, because they're, but Roslovic is a guy at $4 million with on an expiring deal where you're just like, yeah,
you kick the tires, and if the price is like not outrageous, maybe it's a conversation. But
yeah, and like he's a guy that just has never quite, and I think where he'd be a problem in Colorado is that he has an engagement issue.
Mm-hmm.
Day-to-day consistency with him is all over the place. Because when you get the really good version of him, he's pretty good. But like, as was everybody in Columbus last year, I have a hard time looking at underlying numbers for any of the Blue Jackets last year, because a lot of them are major outliers for their career. Roslovic is a good example of this, where if you looked at his underlyings from just last year, you're going to be like, this is a nightmare.
A team
but the rest of his career
than it was,
it's fine. But you're also talking about a team last year that nothing went right for them. Like, imagine the Avs injury issues, but with way worse talent.
Yep. The only guy you have left is not Mikko Rantanen. It's Boone Jenner.
Yeah, it was like Johnny Gaudreau out there by himself going, what happened? Chat asking about Adam Henrique.
Yeah.
I would prefer to go the Kevin Hayes route before I go to Adam Henrique at this point.
Hey, look, it's to me, it's the same conversation. If Anaheim wants to retain $2 million on Henrique, and all of a sudden you get him for 1 year under $4 million, maybe you're having that conversation. But
your big thing with Henrique is that he doesn't do anything, and I mean anything, in transition.
Yep. And it all comes down to cost with these like middling guys, where it's like, if Anaheim wants to give up Adam Henrique for a second-round pick and retain, then yeah, I'm hella interested. But
this is the other part of it. A guy like Henrique is a mid-level asset in
that
a
the Avs
trade,
have none of.
and
yeah.
the Avs don't have that. You
Yeah.
don't like. I'm not trading 27th overall for Adam Henrique.
Yeah, me either.
I'm not doing it.
And the
not
Avs don't
interested
have
in that.
fallback second-round pick to move.
If
so.
they did, which is everybody's favorite roast my roster trade, is to trade back with Chicago for 35. I think it's 35 and a pick in the 50s. Trade him the pick in the 50s for Adam Henrique and then make the 35th pick. That is a conversation I
would do that. Yeah, I would do that.
I would rather use that pick and get Sharon Govich and then just sign O'Reilly. But like I said, at least then your center thing would be done and you could go into free agency and you could try and sign Michael Bunting, as chat suggested earlier, which as a big Michael Bunting fan, I think it would be really fun. But again, wings.
Dude, I feel like signing Michael Bunting is the biggest trap in the NHL.
Why?
I just don't think he's actually that good. Not that he isn't good, but I think everyone saw the 60-point season last year, and I don't think he ever hit 60 points again.
I think
years ago, I guess it was a 60 points.
That's a guy that I wonder if he ends up with like a Lehkonen-like deal because there's so little track record of the high-end success.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate that, but
if it's like $4.5 million, where you're like, hey,
that'd be okay. Yeah,
for a middle six guy, it's pretty appropriate. I don't know. I like Bunting. I like guys that are crazy, relatable.
As long as you know what you're getting, right? If you're not asking him to be a 60-point top line guy, fine.
I like the Zucker idea. But again, we're talking about investing at wing here, and how aggressively do you want to invest in wing?
It's just so hard because of where the Avs' money is at. It's really hard to go do the wing thing until you know what you're doing at center, unless you're just YOLOing center.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
Anyway, I think we covered most of the guys.
If we haven't covered one of the centers at this point that ends up getting moved or turns into an Av, I'm going to be pretty disappointed.
Right, no kidding.
I'm just saying right off the bat, just to get Evgeny Kuznetsov, no thank you.
Yeah, I'm good. If you don't like Barbashev's defense, let me tell you.
I tried to talk myself into Josh Bailey last night because I was really high before I went to bed.
Okay, Islander fan.
Like, because I'm thinking about Josh Bailey years ago when he was like fine all around.
Good.
And I was like, look, it's 1 year. Because they're really desperate to get rid of him, maybe they'll attach like a second round pick to get rid of him. And then I went and looked at his underlines and was like,
nope.
We're good. This is one of the few times where I'm like, I'm not even going to watch him. Although I did watch him and know that he had a bad year.
We'll close this out with this last question. When do the Avs start making moves? When they feel like they have a good move to make?
Yeah. I guarantee you it won't be too much longer because the draft is next Wednesday. So I will say they will make at least one major move, which includes making their first round draft pick within the next
on
7
Wednesday.
days. Yeah.
All right. We're going to get out of here for the day. We will be back tomorrow. I don't know, or I think we're talking draft on Friday, but
correct.
So we'll be back tomorrow with more probably free agency talk. We appreciate all of y'all hanging out with us, and we will see you on the next one.